Hello, good afternoon, everybody. This is Steve Harper with Anthony Plumbing, Heating and Cooling. I am the HVAC Technical Training Director here, do all of our technical training, and I'm here today to give a few pointers to if your air conditioner stops working, it's not working as well as it should be, what are a few things that you might be able to check? So let's start first with it stops completely. It's not doing anything. Your blower's not blowing air inside, and the unit outside is not on as well. So the first thing you might do is go to your thermostat. Is the thermostat blank? If the thermostat is blank, the first thing you could do is go downstairs to your furnace or wherever it's located, and most of them are going to have a light switch on the side of the unit right here. You want to make sure that the switch is on. If it is off, that could cause your thermostat to go blank. So turn it back on and then recheck your thermostat. If that didn't work and the thermostat is still blank, it may run on just batteries. So you would want to check your batteries to make sure that they're okay. So those are two things to check if it stops working completely. They are on two separate breakers, so it would be strange for the furnace breaker to go and the air conditioner breaker to go. Now, it could be one or the other, but you would either hear the outside unit running or the inside unit running, all right? So now let's talk about how it might not be just cooling correctly. It's the first time you fired it up this season maybe, and it's blowing air, but that air coming out of your vents is definitely not cool. It's run for several hours. What could be the issue? Well, first thing you might do is run outside. Is the outdoor unit running? Okay, it's not running. So inside my furnace is blowing air. There's air coming out of my registers, but it's not cool once again, right? So what's going on? Well, the first thing to do would be to check the breaker for the outdoor unit. So we know we have a call for cooling because I'm blowing air, but the outdoor unit is not receiving a signal or the power is not on to it. So the first thing to do would be to check the breaker. And if that is not the case and the breaker looks okay, at that point it would be a good idea to call a technician to come out and take a look at it. We don't want any of our customers getting into the electrical compartment on an outdoor condenser. It is high voltage and very dangerous. So it's blowing air, but it's not cold. So we could be low on refrigerant, right? So when an air conditioner starts to lose refrigerant, at first, the saturation temperature of our indoor coil that actually sits above our furnace right here starts to freeze. So we have an example right here of a picture, and you can see here that the coil, if this was sitting outside of here, this is what you might see. And this line here that's frozen and then starts with the insulation is the same one as coming right out of this right here. So if your coil starts to freeze, it will freeze first at the coil and then work its way outside. So what you could do is pull back the insulation just a little bit right here on the front of your coil case. And if you see some frost right there, that's a good indication that your indoor coil is frozen up. So what do you do if you do have a frozen coil, indoor coil? Well, the first thing to do would be to go to your thermostat, turn it from the cool to the off position, and you have a fan switch on your thermostat as well. And if you were to change that from auto or circulate to on, what that's going to do is keep that fan running on the furnace and allow the air in the house to slowly melt this ice off the indoor coil. Now, the example that you saw just right there is a very minor example. We can actually get it completely full and encased in ice, and it can take 4 to 6 hours to thaw out if that were the case. So what I always do for my customers if I come across a frozen coil is what I said. I want to turn it off and the fan to on at the thermostat, but I also want to lay a towel across the top of the furnace right here. When that ice builds up inside of there, a lot of it builds outside of the drain pan, and when it starts to melt, it's going to find any way it can to get out from inside there. So I'm putting the towel across the front right there to try and protect any water from getting down inside of my furnace and doing any kind of further damage. The other thing is I want to make sure that my condensate drain lines are clear right here. If I have melting going on, and the water can't properly drain out. It's going to overflow my pan, and that water is going to end up down in the bottom of my furnace and potentially get on my blower motor or my circuit board and do some more damage that way. So, besides being low on refrigerant, what's another reason why I might freeze my indoor coil? It's airflow. And airflow is extremely important. I've got a few examples here of some air filters. Now, on this setup here, I actually have a big April Air electronic air cleaner. And this is great for people who have really bad allergies. So instead of taking this one out, I was going to show you a couple examples right here. This is a media filter. This is a 5-inch media filter. Now the advantage to this filter is that it lasts a lot longer and it does a much better job at removing smaller particles from your air in your home. This here is a 1-inch pleated filter. This will do a good job of filtering, but this is at most a 90-day filter, whereas this is a 6 to 12-month filter. Now, sometimes we get sold that this is 90 days and this is a year, and it's time to replace this within 4 to 6 months. It's definitely environmental. If you have 2 people living in a home with no pets, your filter is going to last a lot longer. If you have 4 kids, 2 dogs, and 2 cats, you're going to need to change that filter much more frequently. So you can see right here, this is a brand new 5-inch media filter compared to the dirty one here. Now, why does it make the indoor coil freeze up? It slows the airflow down across my indoor coil right here. And when the air slows down, the temperature of that coil actually goes down with it. And if I'm pulling humidity out of the house, that's what's going to freeze on my indoor coil. So if you have a frosted coil or a frozen coil, you turn it off at the thermostat, turn the fan on. The first thing to check after that would be my air filter. Have I changed my air filter in a while? If it's been too long and we're actually slowing it down, it may take several hours to freeze up. You remove that filter, replace it with a clean one. You still have to leave it off and let it completely thaw out. Otherwise, the ice is also an obstruction to the airflow, so it will still continue to freeze even though you've replaced your air filter. So you want to go ahead and refrain from trying to turn it back on even though you want to, and let that thing completely thaw out. And when you see that there's no more water coming out of your condensate drains here, you can go ahead and turn the system back on. Now, if the same thing happens again and it freezes up after you've replaced the filter, then you're going to need to call for service. It's possible that you have a refrigeration leak in the system somewhere. All right. So what else can we talk about? Tune-ups. These are the things that we take care of for our customers every year. So twice a year. We come out once in this time of year, and we're going to do your air conditioning tune-up. So we're obviously going to change your air filter, but we're going to do several other things. So the stuff that we're going to do inside is make sure that these drains are all clear. We're going to check the blower motor. So this is what delivers our air here during either heating or cooling. So the furnace works in conjunction with our air conditioner. So we want to check that motor. We want to check all our electrical connections, our run assist, anything that we may have down there, since it works during both seasons. If you have a whole house humidifier, we are going to go ahead and turn that off for the summer because we don't need to add humidity. Air conditioning, we're removing humidity from the house. So we'll shut that off for the summer. We'll adjust any dampers that you may need adjusted from season to season. And then we'll go outside. While we're outside, what we're going to do is hook up our refrigerant gauges to this unit, and we're going to check the charge to make sure it's accurate. An accurately charged system is going to cost you less to run. It's going to be more efficient, and it's going to dehumidify correctly. So we have some customers sometimes that have a humidity issue in the summer. Obviously, if it's a little clammy in your house, it's not going to feel as cool and crisp. So even though your thermostat may say 72 degrees, it definitely feels warmer than that. Well, a lot of times that's just strictly an issue with your refrigerant charge. We should be, if we are dehumidifying correctly, we should be around 50% during the summertime. Now, if it's not charged correctly, that number can start creeping up. So sometimes I get asked about whole house dehumidifiers. And sometimes it is definitely necessary. There are homes in older parts of Kansas City that have stone foundations, and they tend to do a better job of retaining moisture. And so the air conditioner has to work even harder to try and draw that extra moisture out of the house. And sometimes an additional dehumidifier added into the system will help alleviate those symptoms. And we take those and we duct them into the return. Now, most people are familiar with the little dehumidifiers that you get at Lowe's and Home Depot. This one is much bigger, and it has to be ran on its own circuit, and it can remove between 90 and 135 pints of water a day. So it really removes the water. But a lot of times we can fix it just by having a properly working system. So again, after we check the charge, we're going to open up your electrical department here, and we're going to check your amp draw and your fan motor that spins on top, the compressor that's inside the machine that pumps the refrigerant through the system. We want to make sure that they are not running too hot, which could damage them, that they're drawing the right amount of power. So we will check the voltage coming in, make sure that we don't have any kind of voltage drop. Check your dual run assist that helps start the compressor and the condenser fan motor. And then while we have it all still running, what we're going to do is we're going to actually burn the coil. The outdoor coil gets very dirty with grass clippings, cottonwood seed, different things accumulate on there. And airflow has just as much to do with system performance outside as it does inside. So outside, we have to be able to pull that air across the coil, across the entire thing to get 100% capacity and be as efficient as possible. So by burning that stuff, we get it out much easier than just washing it. So after we burn it, we're going to take the top off, shut the unit off obviously, and then we're going to spray and clean it from the inside out and make sure that we get all the leaves and sticks and stuff out of the bottom of the unit. Together, and we're going to put a coat of turtle wax on it. Not necessarily maybe make it shine, but it will make it last longer. It won't fade. You know, we wax our cars, so why not wax this? It sits out in the elements just like your car does. I'd like to thank personally all of our service agreement customers. If you're tuning in and you see this, thank you so much for being a customer. And those of you that aren't and you'd like to have some maintenance done, give us a call. We'd love to come out. Dial ANTHONY in Kansas or Missouri, AnthonyPHC.com.